This is the Terracotta Army. 8,000 warriors buried over 2,000 years ago. One of the greatest wonders of the world.
In the cold laboratory, the flickering lights reflected on the large screen. The scientists held their breath as the first scan results from the AI system appeared, and no one could believe their eyes. A line of data, once blurred and fragmented, suddenly became clear, revealing something never before disclosed about the Terracotta Army. The entire space seemed to sink into silence for a moment, every glance exchanged, as they realized they had just touched a secret buried with more than 2 millennia of history. More than 2,000 years have passed, and the Terracotta Army remains the most powerful symbol of ancient China, a silent monument guarding the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, yet still hiding countless unsolved mysteries. This time, AI technology does not simply recreate appearances, it digs deeper, peeling back layers of data, and unexpectedly reveals a detail that leaves historians, archaeologists, and all of us astonished. So what has emerged from beneath the soil under thousands of years of silence, and could it change the way we see the Qin dynasty? Join mindgap to uncover whether these massive statues are not merely symbols, but perhaps part of Qin Shi Huang's true strategy. In the 3rd century BC, a figure both prominent and controversial appeared in Chinese history: Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor to unify the fractured lands into a single empire. Ancient chronicles describe him as ruthless yet visionary, a man who worked relentlessly to leave behind a legacy that would outlast time itself. He was not satisfied with mere conquest or governance. His ambition stretched further into the realm of eternity. Obsessed with the idea of immortality, he sought alchemists, experimented with elixirs, and dreamed of breaking the boundaries of human life. From this unyielding desire was born the vision of a colossal mausoleum, not simply a place to rest the body, but a fortress designed to project power beyond death. Over 2,200 years later, the scale of this mausoleum still leaves archaeologists and historians in awe. The burial complex covers about 56.25 square kilometers, an expanse so immense that it equals the size of 78 forbidden cities. It is hard to imagine such ambition, a project that required the labor of hundreds of thousands, consuming decades of effort. Beneath this vast landscape lie not only halls and chambers, but also an entire silent world. Rows of terracotta soldiers, statues of generals and footmen, musicians, civil officials, bronze chariots, and horses. They stand frozen in time, sealed under layers of earth for millennia. For generations, most believed this was nothing more than a grand funerary display, a symbolic army to honor the man who unified China. Yet in 2025, that assumption began to crack. A new scanning system, combining on-site archaeological data with advanced AI modeling, generated images and layers of information never before seen. What was once invisible started to take shape, and with it came unsettling questions. If the Terracotta Army was only meant as a symbol, why do some details suggest a more practical purpose? Could it be that this silent force underground was part of Qin Shi Huang's carefully calculated strategy for the afterlife? Perhaps the statues were not only guardians of power, but tools within a larger plan, one designed with precision and intent. If that is true, then we may have misunderstood the story of the Qin dynasty all along. The way the tomb was built, the organization of its underground structures, even the emperor's idea of power after death, all of it demands to be re-examined. This revelation shook not only archaeologists, but also the very foundations of historical interpretation. It raises a haunting possibility. Has history itself concealed a truth of such magnitude for over 2,000 years? And now, in 2025, AI technology has become the key capable of unlocking that hidden door. In 1974, during a severe drought in Shanxi, a few farmers trekked out to the fields outside their village to dig a well, hoping to find water. On March 29th, Yang Zhifa, his younger brother, and their neighbor Wang Puji suddenly struck something unusual. Beneath nearly 2 meters of thick red earth, they unearthed a ceramic head left behind from an ancient time. At first, Yang thought it was just a broken jar. Few could have imagined it was the face of a terracotta warrior thousands of years old. The story did not end there. As more fragments of pottery appeared, the farmers brought them to the local cultural preservation center. There, Zhao Kangmin, a self-taught archaeologist, recognized the significance of these broken pieces. He quickly reassembled them into a complete warrior statue and gave this group of relics a name: the Terracotta Army of the Qin dynasty. Once the army that had lain still beneath the earth for 2,000 years was revealed, the world seemed to hold its breath. As excavations continued, thousands of terracotta warriors gradually emerged. Later reports showed that they had been arranged in organized formations, each face uniquely distinct, as if every single one had once truly lived during the reign of Qin Shi Huang. Unlike static sculptures, this army carried a haunting sense of vitality. Every decisive gaze, every detail of armor, weapons, and hairstyle gave the impression that at some moment in history, the entire formation had been ready for battle. Under the light of the present, they no longer seemed like mere statues, but silent witnesses, staring through the centuries, raising the unsettling question: were they only symbols, or could they once have represented the very presence of a real army? For decades, the answer was accepted without doubt. They were created to follow the emperor into the afterlife, to protect him on his eternal journey. That was how textbooks, museums, and exhibitions around the world displayed and explained them. But then, an unavoidable question began to surface. What if that was only the outer shell of the truth? What if these statues concealed another role, a deeper purpose than history has recorded? And this is where the mystery begins to unfold. Because in 2025, AI technology scanned through the layers of soil and the seemingly immovable shells of these warriors. If for half a century humanity believed they were merely guardians of the tomb, then what is about to be revealed could force us to see the entire history of the Qin dynasty in a completely different light. So after all these millennia beneath the earth, what secret is waiting to be uncovered? Imagine yourself standing beside a massive excavation pit, with dim light filtering through the darkened roof, and before your eyes appears an immovable choreography of war. This is not just sculpture, it is the outline of a battlefield carved in terracotta. From the very first pits unearthed, it became clear: soldiers, chariots, officials, musicians, even mass graves for the laborers. Everything was arranged with precision, in clear order, not as random burials. The workers and artisans of the Qin era had built an eternal parade ground, on a scale that left every visitor astonished. In pit number 1, the largest section of the Terracotta Army, thousands of statues are lined up in parallel rows, resembling a real army standing in strict formation. Records show that the pit contains more than 3,000 warriors, divided into about 11 corridors, each several meters wide, with wooden roofs above, covered by straw and clay for waterproofing. It looked like underground palace halls, but instead of officials or concubines, the corridors were filled with soldiers. Pit number 2 was more diverse: cavalry units, kneeling archers, high-ranking officers, and chariots. They stood in clearly defined battle formations. Musicians did not stand with horsemen, officials were not placed beside cavalry, Each figure had a distinct place within a ceremonial order. This revealed they were not positioned at random. Every detail followed a specific strategy of arrangement. Most striking of all, pit number 3 was described by archaeologists as the command center. There, the statues were fewer in number but crafted with greater refinement, suggesting this was the place meant to command the entire formation, where Qin Shi Huang's chosen leaders, or even the embodiment of his hidden power, were placed beneath the earth. And beyond the soldiers, surveys revealed something more unsettling. The mausoleum complex also contained the graves of the laborers who had built it, the real workers, buried in separate sections, perhaps to ensure that the great project's secrets would remain silent forever. Each of these details painted a picture of a structure meticulously planned. Soldiers arranged in authentic battle formations, officials and musicians for ceremonial inspection, laborers entombed to guard silence. The entire mausoleum was no longer just a burial site. It resembled a strategic base, a miniature replica of the Qin dynasty's military and court system preserved underground. But the most striking question lingers. When looking at such a structure, could the mausoleum have been more than a resting place? Could it have also been a form of deterrence? The presence of thousands of statues, ready for battle even beneath the soil, can be seen as a proclamation. Even in death, the power of Qin Shi Huang would not fade. Any who dared violate his tomb would face an immortal army holding the ground. For years, we treated the mausoleum as nothing more than a grand funerary ritual. Yet now it is clear, even in death, this was still a fortress, a political warning and a symbol of power no rival dared underestimate. So why does AI scanning in 2025 matter here? It does not only let us see the statues in greater detail. It can reveal the hidden structures, the layered systems beneath, a sophisticated network of strategy buried deep underground. And as the Earth falls away, that truth will no longer remain just a hypothesis. When the first archaeological teams set up camp around the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, they did not only face layers of soil compressed for thousands of years. From the very first surveys, unusual measurement results forced many to step back. The concentration of mercury underground was strangely high, far exceeding the regional average. A 2012 survey reported readings as high as 1,440 parts per billion, while the normal levels in the area were only a few dozen parts per billion. For anyone familiar with Sima Qian's Records of the Grand Historian, this detail immediately recalled the passage describing how the tomb contained rivers and seas made of mercury, an artificial underground world. But mercury was only one piece of a larger puzzle. Surrounding the tomb were not one, but two layers of walls. The outer wall rose several tens of meters, solid like a fortress, while the inner wall was built of bricks, dividing the underground space into independent sections. Researchers called it an underground city because of its meticulous planning and enormous scale. Beneath the earth, geophysical surveys revealed something even more astonishing: a carefully engineered drainage system. Hidden dams, channels, and water troughs were designed to prevent groundwater from flooding the tomb. Thanks to this, for more than 2 millennia, the mausoleum has remained relatively dry, preserving the terracotta warriors and metal artifacts from the destructive effects of moisture. Such techniques surprised many experts, for they demonstrated a level of engineering and project management far beyond what was once imagined for the 3rd century BC. All of these details show that the mausoleum was never intended to be just a burial chamber. It was designed as a self-contained world. There, Qin Shi Huang was not only at rest, he continued to live on in a miniature universe, one that contained mountains, rivers, seas of mercury, fortresses, and an immortal army guarding him. For him, death was not the end, but the continuation of power in another realm. But the more one looks at this sophistication, the more a chilling feeling begins to grow. A mausoleum wrapped in fortress-like walls, guarded by toxic mercury and equipped with underground dams against flooding, it resembles nothing less than a military base disguised beneath the soil. If it were all only for displaying power in a funeral ritual, would such extreme calculations have been necessary? And that is the very knot that forces us to think. Are we simply witnessing the lavish rites of an emperor, or are we truly standing before the traces of a form of control technology that has never been decoded? A technology that, more than 2,000 years later, still leaves archaeologists and modern scientists bewildered, and may yet conceal surprises no one has dared to uncover. When artificial intelligence was officially deployed at the mausoleum site in 2025, no one expected that a series of shocking secrets would be revealed. For the first time, the largest burial pit, where thousands of warrior statues stand, was scanned using an AI system combined with 3D sensors and ultra-detailed geometric analysis. The display did not just recreate neat rows of soldiers, it also highlighted a few statues so different that archaeologists were left speechless. Among the data collected, one statue stood out, clearly marked with the rank of a general. The most shocking feature was the face. Unlike most of the soldier statues that followed a shared template, this face was distinctly asymmetrical. One cheek was slightly hollow, the bridge of the nose leaned to one side, and on the forehead there was a carved mark that seemed to replicate the exact features of a real person. This level of detail immediately brought to mind earlier research showing that no two terracotta statues are identical, and that each figure carries unique traits like a real human being. But this time, thanks to AI scanning the entire surface, the level of realism went far beyond imagination. An earlier archaeological report had noted that while the bodies of the warriors were made from molds, the faces were hand-finished to give each one individuality. However, the 2025 AI data revealed that in some statues of commanding officers, the details were not simply for personalization to make them lifelike. They contained identifiable characteristics that could match the skeletal structure or facial profile of an actual person who once lived. This led to a chilling hypothesis. Could it be that the statues of generals were sculpted in the likeness of real Qin dynasty commanders, a way to immortalize them in terracotta? If true, then the Terracotta Army was not just a collective symbol, but a physical roll call of those who once held military power. Researchers compared these details with descriptions from ancient texts, and although no absolute conclusion has been reached, the unnerving similarities stirred a wave of public fascination. The site was like staring at an ancient portrait, but instead of ink on paper, it was carved in solid terracotta. Wrinkles, slight asymmetries, even tiny scars on the cheek, all faithfully captured. AI not only confirmed the uniqueness of each face, but also showed that some were likely modeled directly on real human identities, rather than random artistic invention. And here, the greatest question arises. If these generals were truly copied into statues, then the meaning of the mausoleum changes entirely. It is not merely a tomb for the emperor with an imagined guard. It becomes an archive of identities, a place that preserves the very portraits of the Qin dynasty's power structure. That means when you step into those burial pits, you are not just witnessing funerary art. You are standing before the oldest identity museum in the world. A place where human faces have been frozen in clay, never to fade, as if Qin Shi Huang wanted to keep them by his side forever, not only by their names, but by their very likeness. So in the end, is this truly a cemetery? Or is it a secret archive of identities, where power was immortalized through the eternal faces of men? Amid all the shocking discoveries, one truth still lies untouched in the shadows. The central burial chamber of Qin Shi Huang has never been opened. Since 1974, the pits of soldiers, chariots, and officials have been excavated and widely studied. But the main tomb, believed to contain the coffin and treasures, has remained sealed beneath the earth for more than 2,200 years. The reason, according to numerous archaeological reports, is that premature excavation could completely destroy the relics, as preservation technology is still inadequate. Some studies even point to the unusually high levels of mercury in the area, reinforcing the theory that a chemical trap was deliberately set to deter any intruders. This leads to a haunting question. Was the Terracotta Army created only to guard the emperor in the afterlife? Or were they also a barrier built to conceal another secret, larger, more dangerous, and perhaps more terrifying than anything we imagine? The first hypothesis, mentioned by many scholars of Chinese culture, is the protection of the emperor's soul. In ancient belief, Qin Shi Huang not only sought immortality in the human realm, but also wished to rule the world beyond. Thus, an army of terracotta warriors was not just a grand funerary display, but a spiritual shield, ensuring that his soul remained safe in a universe of its own. The second hypothesis, more practical yet equally chilling, suggests that the entire structure was designed to prevent humans from ever reaching the burial chamber. Historical texts such as Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian describe hidden crossbows and rivers of mercury flowing inside the tomb. If those accounts are true, then anyone attempting to break in would face certain death. According to a report in National Geographic, mercury levels measured around the mausoleum were many times higher than normal, partially confirming the ancient warnings. This has led to the theory that both the Terracotta Army and the underground system function as a final line of defense, a deterrent meant to warn all future generations. Yet there is another hypothesis, bolder and more disturbing, that the mausoleum was not only built for protection, but for containment. Perhaps Qin Shi Huang buried alongside himself an artifact, a technology, or even a force that humanity was never meant to encounter. In that sense, the thousands of terracotta warriors were not just guardians, but the walls of an eternal prison, erected to lock away a secret with destructive potential. Whichever theory is true, unease lingers. The Terracotta Army, in ordinary light, is a masterpiece of art and power. But under the lens of modern AI scanning, they suddenly take on another meaning. When the system revealed that some statues bore the copied faces of real commanders, who can be certain that the day the chamber is opened, we will not be confronted with even more disturbing secrets? Perhaps it will be rivers of mercury still flowing in the darkness. Perhaps strange artifacts, evidence of an emperor's obsession with immortality. Or perhaps it will be the very thing that, for 2,000 years, the Terracotta Army has silently guarded, so that humankind might never touch it. And so, the haunting question echoes. When the final door is opened, will we witness the dazzling treasures of the Qin dynasty, or a sealed secret powerful enough to change the course of human history? After all the layers of earth, the motionless statues, and the centuries of suspicion, artificial intelligence in 2025 has changed everything. The Terracotta Army is no longer seen only as a massive work of art built to display the power of Qin Shi Huang. It is now understood as a historical archive, a vault preserving the imprints of real people, the generals and soldiers who once helped forge the first empire of China. Technology has shown us what the human eye could not. The asymmetrical faces, the carvings detailed enough to match the traits of actual individuals, all suggest that beneath the terracotta lies an entire collection of identities made immortal. This means that instead of simply walking through a cemetery, we are standing before one of the earliest museums of humanity, where history is not only written in text, but carved into the faces of men. And that is the greatest revelation of all. Modern technology does not only serve the future, it also shines into the past. AI has become a flashlight piercing through more than 2,000 years of darkness, restoring details that seemed lost forever. Through it, we gain a clearer understanding of the technical brilliance, the artistry, and even the philosophy of an ancient civilization long wrapped in mystery. Just imagine, if AI can reconstruct the true faces of the Terracotta warriors, then one day, it may even allow us to see the living story of the Qin dynasty, the way they trained their soldiers, the art of command, the music of the court, even the philosophy that guided an empire. Each new discovery is not just archaeological data, it is a piece of the puzzle, bringing us closer to knowing how far humanity had already advanced in the earliest chapters of history. And yet, the haunting question remains: can technology uncover the ultimate truth hidden behind those sealed walls? Or are some secrets, especially those of Qin Shi Huang's central tomb, meant to remain untouched, waiting for future generations to uncover on their own? We may now be standing on the fragile line between the light of knowledge and the reverence owed to the past. And that is why this story is not only fascinating, but deeply challenging. So what do you think? Are the discoveries revealed by AI the first step toward unlocking the entire truth, or should we stop at the surface to preserve the sanctity of the unknown? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next journey of discovery. Because sometimes the greatest mysteries are not only about death, but about how a civilization once lived, once breathed, and once left behind an eternal mark for all of us.